Hello, how are you? My name is Michael Williams, and I have a question for you. Have you ever had to do a talk or give an interview, make a presentation, or explain your thoughts under pressure? So how did you do? Well, some of you listening have probably done well, but there's others of you who are listening to this who didn't do as well as you know you could have. And the question is, why not? Often when you and I are under pressure, we simply don't perform as well as we know that we can. And I want to share with you in this brief audio a couple of reasons why, and then a few things that you can do to help yourself perform well under pressure, to help you to be able to clearly and calmly and confidently articulate your thoughts in an intelligent manner in the way that you know that you can. So here are a couple of reasons why sometimes we don't perform well under pressure. Number one, we think about previous poor performances, right? Things that have happened to us in the past. So for example, let's just say that you have an interview. And let's also say that you didn't do well in your last couple of interviews. Or that when you do interviews, you usually get nervous and you forget what you want to say, or you start speaking too fast. So then when you have an upcoming interview, what happens is you start to kind of replay your previous experiences. And when you're in the interview, you start thinking about, oh, God, man, I hope I don't do what I did before. Sometimes these thoughts, these feelings, the impressions begin to happen unconsciously or subconsciously. That is, you don't think about them consciously, but you feel them. You sense that you know there's something going on that's holding you back, that's keeping you from performing well. The second reason is that we allow ourselves to become distracted while speaking. So we're speaking, we're speaking smoothly, then all of a sudden we start thinking about, uh-oh, I hope that wasn't stupid. I hope this person sees me as an intelligent person. I hope I give them the right answer, right? So we start becoming distracted, and as soon as we become distracted, we lose our flow. We lose our flow. So let's take just a little look at the first one, that we start thinking about previous poor performances, right? Performances that we've had in the past. Every experience that we've had is imprinted in our memory. It's there. We may not consciously be able to recall it, but it's there. And emotionally charged or embarrassing experiences are most definitely there, right? They're there in a way that a non-embarrassing or an unemotionally charged experience is not, right? So if something happens and you are embarrassed, that's really going to stand out. And what that can do is that can create a belief that, oh my goodness, you know what, I'm not very good at interviewing, or I'm not very good at speaking in public. So let's say, for example, you were giving a talk and you lost your place, or you started getting cloudy, or you started stuttering or stammering. All of a sudden, if this happens more than once, sometimes it just takes once, but often if it happens more than once, you start thinking, oh, I'm not really good at this, or usually when I do this, I freeze up, or this happens, and it becomes a belief. And beliefs are difficult to change. Now, the second reason, which was that people allow themselves to become distracted. So this can happen when a person's speaking, they're speaking well, and then all of a sudden they realize, hey, this is going pretty well. I'm actually speaking, and they become self-conscious of their speech, and then they start to mess up, right? They get out of their rhythm. It's kind of like if you're running up the stairs, you're skipping stairs, you're not really thinking about what you're doing, you're not thinking the fact that you're doing, you're not thinking about how your legs are moving in your body, you're just doing it, right? You're in the rhythm, you're in the flow. As soon as you start to think about it, you trip, right? You mess up. Same thing with driving, right? We're driving, we're not thinking about, okay, I gotta hold the steering wheel like this, I gotta make sure I stay far enough away from this guy on the left and the right. You just do it out of habit. When you start to think about it, it becomes very awkward, okay? So, why do we get out of the flow? Here are a few key reasons why we lose that flow when we're speaking. Number one, our attention or focus shifts from the present moment or the goal of our speech right then to some past experience. It shifts out of what we're doing to something else, to something that's happened in the past. Number two, we begin to worry about not messing up. The very thing we don't want to do, we start thinking about it. We start worrying about it. We hope we don't screw up. Number three, we start thinking about what people are thinking of us at that time. So someone may, for example, in fact, we're going to talk about this in the next one, but we're looking out over the audience and we're wondering, I hope this is making sense to them. I hope this isn't sounding stupid. I wonder if this person likes the way I'm dressed. I wonder if they like my hair or they like the color of my skin. So we start thinking about and worrying about what they're thinking of us. Number four, we possibly misread their expression. So there's been plenty of times when I've been speaking and I've seen someone frown and I wonder, okay, are they confused? Do they not like what I just said? And I'll check in with them and I'll find out that they were just thinking, they were reflecting really hard. So it had nothing to do with them being confused or disagreeing, they were just thinking. Had I not checked in with them, I might have continued through the presentation thinking, uh-oh, this person doesn't like what I said. Okay. Number five, we hope we don't forget the material we've memorized or prepared. So this is another reason that we can get distracted or get out of the flow. We start worrying about forgetting our material. And that worry actually causes us to forget the material, right? Does this make sense? There's a plethora of other reasons why we can become distracted, but these are some of the most common. So what can we do to prevent these destructive distractions? So when we think of the word distraction, we generally think of it in a negative way. It's painted a little negative, right? And if you look up the definition and even the etymology of distraction or distract, it means the drawing away of the mind, like the pulling away of the mind. It's kind of taking your attention from one thing to something else, okay? But what if we could use distraction in a positive way, in a constructive way? Well, we can. And the way that we do it is we learn how to snap our focus or shift our attention back to something positive, back to something constructive, back to the present moment. Okay? And here's a little exercise. Here's something that I want you to do. When you're speaking with someone and they say something to you, I want you to ask them, what were you just thinking about? So you're in a conversation, they're talking to you, just stop and say, okay, what were you just thinking about right then? And the person may give you a strange look, right? And they'll say, what was I thinking? I was just thinking about what I wanted to say to you. And if you keep digging down, in fact, if you even ask yourself while you're speaking to someone, you ask yourself, what am I thinking right now? What you're going to find is that there are plenty of times where you're speaking and it's almost like you're not thinking anything. Like your mind it feels like it's empty. You're in the present moment and you're flowing. Your thoughts and your words are simply flowing. You're saying exactly what you want to say. You're responding to the person, you're asking questions, you're speaking, but you're in a flow. You're not really thinking about what you're saying. You're just saying it. So you have an intention, right? You have a desire, you have a goal. There's information you want to get from the person. There's information you want to give to the person. There's an impression you want to make. There's something you want to say. And you just do it. What your brain does is it just goes in and uses your linguistic abilities and it uses your motor skills and motor coordination to help you to what? To speak, to formulate the words and the thoughts and the ideas that you want to communicate. Does this make sense? We don't really have to consciously think about that. Often with people who struggle with their speech, people who stammer or stutter, this is not the case. They often think about the words that they're saying and how they're saying it. They start anticipating that they can't say something. They're going to get stuck on this or that. And not only do people who struggle with their speech in that way suffer from this or are challenged by this, but people who generally don't stutter or stammer, but when they're put under pressure, they all of a sudden begin thinking about how they're speaking, what they're saying, what other people are thinking, and all the things we talked about, right? And so they get out of that rhythm or flow. Does this make sense? Has this ever happened to you? So let's talk about how to snap your attention back. I'm going to give you 4 things. Number 1, internalize your material. Don't memorize it. When you internalize your content, what you're doing is you're giving yourself greater flexibility to say exactly what you want to say, but you're not necessarily tied to specific words or phrases, right? It gives you more flexibility. And in some of our programs, we actually walk you through a systematic way to internalize and not memorize your content. So one way to snap your attention back isn't just in how you prepare, right? It's in how you prepare. Once you've internalized your material, then you can just focus on the audience, focus on engaging the audience. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. So the second way is prepare and practice as often as possible. And here's what happens. I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of people over the years, and we find that people don't prepare and practice as much as they actually should. So then when you ask them, well, how long did you prepare? Well, I just prepared for this amount of time. Did you practice? Well, I prepared the slides and I went over it a few times the night before. But the more you prepare and practice for your presentations, the more confident you feel, the more self-confident you are. Your brain knows that you've done the work and you feel more confident, okay? So your confidence can decline when you haven't really prepared as well. But for sure, there are times when you do prepare and your attention still gets shifted and pulled someplace else, okay? So let's talk about number 3. Focus all of your attention on serving your audience. Now, when I'm speaking, I generally like to focus on 2 things, clarity and impact. So everything that I do, that is my style of speaking, as well as the structure of what I'm saying, is designed to do what? To help me to speak clearly and to have an impact on the people that I'm speaking with. And if I focus just on that, if I focus on serving my audience by making sure that they're satisfied, or serving whoever it is I'm talking to, making sure that what I'm saying is clear and has impact, then I don't have this time, I don't have the mental horsepower or space to focus on the other things that we talked about, on what they're thinking of me, on I hope I don't mess up, I hope I don't sound stupid, I hope they like me, I hope this is... The only thing I'm thinking about is this clear? If it's not, how can I make it clear? Am I having an impact? So when I'm speaking, I want to make sure I'm not speaking too fast. I want to make sure that I'm articulating correctly. I want to make sure that my body language is in sync with what I'm saying, right? I want to make sure that I'm modulating my voice and I'm emphasizing certain things to have a certain impact. And if I'm just focusing on that, which is in service to my audience, then what happens is I deliver an outstanding presentation, or I have a great conversation because I'm focused on that other person and on being clear and having an impact. Does this make sense? And then finally, you focus on how you want to speak and not how you don't want to speak. So if you want to speak with energy, clarity, smoothness, and confidence, then you pick one of those things or 2 of those things, and you just focus on making sure that you deliver your talk, your presentation, your interview, for example, with energy, or as smoothly as possible. So if you focus on serving your audience, and if you focus on speaking the way you want to speak, if you focus on clarity and impact, you simply cannot focus on those things that distract you negatively. So in other words, you're using these things as a positive distraction. You're using clarity and impact as a positive distractor. You're using the way you want to speak as a positive distractor. You're using the fact that you want to serve your audience. You want them to walk away feeling great, having learned something, knowing which actions to take next. When you're focused on that, that's a positive distraction. It's a positive distractor. Does that make sense? So each of the strategies that I have shared with you can help you keep your attention where it needs to be, which is in the present moment. And it can help you to use certain things as positive distractions and not get distracted in a negative way. The last thing I want to leave you with is that you do have the capacity to be the conductor of your own train of thinking. Our default mode sometimes is negative, or the default mode can allow you to be distracted with thoughts of all kinds of things. But you have the power and the control to snap your attention back, to focus on serving your audience, to focus on being clear, on having an impact, on speaking smoothly. You can bring your attention back. And it doesn't mean that you bring it back once. If you keep getting distracted, you keep snapping your attention back, you keep bringing it back, and it becomes a habit. Okay, so I hope that this audio and the accompanying article is very helpful. If you want to get in touch with me, if you're a professional and you need to do stand-ups, you need to do meetings where you have to give status, or if you have to do higher level presentations. I work with people who've done PowerPoints, spoken from the stage, high level business meetings, mergers, all different kinds of things. If you want to work with me to help you to become an amazing, awesome, excellent speaker, and do it in a way where it's authentic for you, do it in a way where you're calm, where you're clear, where you're smooth, where you're confident, feel free to get in touch with me, okay, at pro90d.com. That is PRO90D as in Delta.com. Just go ahead and check out our website, and you might see that I've primarily been working with people who stutter, but the system and the process that I use, and I've worked with people who don't stutter, they just struggle with their speech in high pressure situations, or they just want to improve their speaking skills. So if that's what you want to do, don't be misled or put off by the word stuttering or stammer. You might not be a stutterer or a stammerer. You might just, maybe you speak too fast, or maybe you want to smooth out your speech, or maybe you want to learn how to speak without notes or be more confident. I can help you do that. If I can help people become excellent speakers who stutter or stammer, and if you don't, then I can for sure help you, okay? Again, thank you very much. My name is Michael Williams. I look forward to serving you soon.